Ze'elina me ke aloha, and welcome to all of you to the Imiloa Astronomy this evening. We are so happy that you have come to join us for a very special presentation. We are grateful to Matson for sponsorship of Imiloa's Wayfinding Talks for this year, 2014-15. And this is the very first Wayfinding Talk of this season. So we are very happy that you're here to join us. This evening, it is our pleasure to present one of Imiloa's very own staff members. She is an educator and a voyager, and her personal story embodies what Imiloa is all about. And we are so proud of her. And this evening, we would love for you to share in her very compelling story of discovery, of voyaging, of education through a perspective, a native perspective. And so it is my pleasure this evening to introduce Imiloa's own Celeste Hao.
Aloha mai kākou. Yeah. I know you guys can do better than that. Aloha. Aloha. Okay, and by the end of tonight, you guys are going to be Samoan. So you guys might as well practice now. So talofa. Alright, somebody's Samoan up in here. Because I know what kind of night this is. Auntie, can you please hold on to my napkins? Just as a cue to you folks. My name, again, is Celeste Hao. I really want to thank you all for being here. I thought that there was only going to be my aunties and my uncle in the front row, so to see everybody here is kind of overwhelming. And because I'm Hawaiian, well, I'm not Portuguese, but I'm Hawaiian and Samoan, so I might as well be. So we're just going to get straight into this. Did anybody, actually, Lani, were you able to introduce Cam in the back?
I did not.
Okay. Everybody, right behind you in that console is Cam Whipper. He's going to be He is our planetarium operator for tonight. And so all of these things that you see going on in the dome, that's his magic in the back there. So Cam, if you could start us off, please. As Cam pulls these things up, my journey begins, although you are here to listen to me share about my journey from Aitutaki to Samoa, it actually starts way, way before that. My grandfather, at the age of 17, my grandfather, Te Alavea Morris, called my parents and I over to his village. He is a paramount chief in a village called Faleapuna on the island of Upolu in the country of Samoa. And he called us over for what we thought was a vacation. However, we soon found out that it wasn't. Instead, he wanted me to come because he wanted to bestow upon me what's called a taupo title. Now, taupo in the Samoan culture is the highest rank any woman could possibly hold. Okay? And her responsibility is over all of the women, and in my case, the children of my village, which has about 700 people within it. So I care for the temporal as well as the spiritual welfare of the women and the children in the village, which, as a 17-year-old, that is a lot of responsibility. So my mother was not happy about it. She felt it was unfair to ask me to take on that kind of role. She also, because I'm actually born and raised here, I really know nothing about the Samoan culture. I don't know how to speak it. I wasn't raised Fa'a Samoa, so I don't know really anything about it, let alone how to live it. So she was afraid that maybe in a way I would get backlash because my grandfather gave the title to a girl who knows nothing about the culture in itself. And all of those things combined together made my mother, like I said, unhappy. And so she told me, Celeste, when your grandfather asks you, because they had this conversation earlier, so when your grandfather asks you to come into the fale, to the house, and he's going to tell you he wants to give you something, your answer is no. You tell him no, thank you, Papa, but no. So when I went in there, not knowing what's going on, he sat me down. He said, he calls me Leslie. So he said, Leslie, I want, and he explains the title, that I want you to, I want to give you this title. I want you to take this responsibility. And obedient as I am to my mom, I told him, oh, I'm sorry, Grandpa, I cannot. And he said, why? I said, because my mom said so. And he said, and very lovingly he said, Leslie, you need to understand something. I have watched you grow. And kind of stepping back a little bit so that way you can understand this. When I was 6, he came to drop off my aunt. He saw me, and for whatever reason, I never knew why, but he stayed with us for 10 years, all the way till I was 16. He would go back and forth between Samoa, but he stayed and he built me a home. And when I was 16, he left and went back to Samoa. Then a year later, that's when he called for me. So he said, Leslie, do you know why I stayed? I said, well, of course, because you love me. And he said, yes, that is the truth. However, when I stepped off that plane when you were 6, and I first saw you, I knew that you were the one to hold this title. I just knew it. And the reason why I stayed with you for 10 years was to make sure your parents raised you right, so that when the time comes, you would be worthy for the responsibility. And so I said, "Ooh, okay," but I still have to say no to it. And so he told me, Leslie, the only thing that I could give you more than this is to lay my own life down for you. That is how great this gift is. It comes with a lot of responsibility, but I don't give it lightly, because for the past 4 generations, our family has never had a top home. Never. Having a top home is really important, but for 4 generations to not home, that's kind of unheard of. And so I asked why. He said, because we never found the right one. Not even your mother's time, not even your grandmother's, and not even before that, the generation before that. It all comes down to you. This is yours. It is meant to be yours. So I said, well, when you put it like that, I guess I'll take it. And so I had my ceremony. There was me and my cousin, and she was also given the title. And my grandfather, with the understanding that I'm not from there, I wasn't going to stay there, he did something kind of unprecedented. What he did was he declared my suafa'i, my ceremony, that Tulo Tele, which is my title name, Tulo Tele will return back to Hawaii. Her responsibility is to go back, learn all that she is meant to. When the time comes and I call for her, she must return and teach her people. And so dutifully, I went back home, and I went back to high school like nothing happened. Went through college. I started my degree in astronomy, and then I would come here, and I would be an intern. I started off as an intern, and in this planetarium, as a planetarium intern, I would meet the man who would change the course of everything else that has to follow. His name is Kalepa Baiban, Pole Master Navigator, and at that time, he was a volunteer, well, a navigator in residence. And so he came into the dome, and my co-worker, my friend Ahia, she was my mentor in the planetarium. She said, Ceci, you have to come, you have to meet this man. And I said, oh, okay. So I stayed after work, and I met him. We came into the dome, and he showed me the sky through a navigator's eyes in this very dome. Cam, if you can go ahead and pull up. I'm gonna show you what he showed me, so that way you can understand. And so, as he did so, I fell in love. I mean, I saw the stars, I saw the math, I saw the science, the culture, the art, that everything, all packaged right here in this dome, and it blew my mind, and it really blew my heart, because from that moment on, that was it. I had to do it. And so, he taught me this chant to help me remember. For a navigator, we memorize 4 different star lines. We divide the night sky into 4 different parts. And to help us remember, we use this little meninane, this little chant. So, you guys are gonna learn it. You guys know Makoko? Oh, I don't know about that. Makoko? Alright, okay. So kahea. So I'm gonna kahea e ohi ohi na pono. And then you would respond, he ka, he iwi, he makau, he lupe, uolako ka ibua ka ho'okele. Ready? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so let's practice. He ka, he iwi, he makau, he lupe, uolako, ka ibu, a ka ho'okele. Uolako, ka ibu, a ka ho'okele. Okay. Uolako ka ipu. A ka ho'okele. Uolako ka ipu a ka ho'okele. Oh my goodness, you guys sound like pros already. Okay, so the first lines, he ka, he iwi, he makau, he lupe. You guys say the last line. So I'm gonna kahea and you're gonna pune. You guys are gonna answer, okay? Ready? E ohi ohi na pono. He ka, he iwi, he makau, he lupe. Ua lako ka iwi a ka ho'okele. Woohoo! Mai ka iloa, hey! Oh my God, that was really good. Okay? So, what this is talking about, he ka. Ka is a bailer. Okay? It reminds us that in a canoe, as big as the canoe is, something as small as a bailer is vital. Without that bailer, what's going to happen when those waves come over and get into the hulls? It sinks. The details matter. Yeah? Heivi. Anybody know what EV is? Bones. Very good. Okay? Bones. Why is that important? What could that represent? Your ancestors. Yeah? Your bones. Okay? Himako. Anybody know? I hear it. A fish hook. Why is a fish hook important? Food, yeah? There is no restaurant anywhere. Your restaurant is the ocean. But you need tools. You need that makau, that fish hook. Hey, lupe. Anybody know what a lupe is? A kite, yeah? What does a kite have to do with a va'a, with wind? The sail is capturing that wind, yeah? That helps, that is the engine. That wind is the engine, and that sail helps to capture it and push the canoe forward. Okay? So these 4 things, once we have these 4 items, the gourd of the navigator is full. What does the gourd represent? Your gourd, your po'o, your brain. Because everything is memorized. You have no charts, you have no planetarium, you have no GPS, no nothing. It's all right here. Yeah. So once that's full, then you are ready to sail. So let's get in. Let me introduce you really quickly to the 4 star lines. The first one being, what was the first one? You guys remember? He ka. Which was the bailer. Very good. If we could get the spotlights real quick, please. Okay. So rising over here in the east. Okay. Before I go into this, let's orientate you. Let's get you guys orientated to the next guy. So in front of us, let me test you folks, because you just probably know. All the stars are celestial bodies, like the sun, the moon, planets. They rise in what direction? East. Very good. Okay. So this area is east. In Hawaii, we call that hikina. Hiki meaning to arrive. So everything you see is arriving from here, this side. So if that is east, hikina, what is on the opposite side? West. In Hawaii, we call that komohana. Komo meaning to enter, yeah? So, and hana meaning work. So, the sun rises each day, arcs across the sky, And at the end of its hana, the end of its workday, it komo. It enters back into the west, the western horizon. Now, if that is hikina, this is komohana, where is north and south? Okay, everybody point to where south is. Fourth. Ooh, can? Yeah! Ooh, you guys are too good. So then, of course, what's left behind us is north. Okay? So now that we've got you orientated, we've got you all set up right now, we have here our first star line, Ke Ka o Makali'i, the great Baylor of Makali'i. And here you guys might notice, this is a little cluster of 7 stars, Makali'i, also known as Pleiades, also known as Subaru. And this is important. This one comes up during our new Makahiki season. So when Makali'i is rising in the east, as the sun is setting in the west, we know that we're coming to that time of the new year, which in fact is within the next couple weeks, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. So this whole arc of stars creates that Baylor, and what it does is it scoops all of the stars within it, scoops it from the east, and then dumps it out over the hull of the canoe off into the west. You guys recognize this guy? Orion. Yeah. We can use Orion's belt to come down to Kapuahi, which we know as sacred fire, but you folks might know as the eye of Taurus the bull. That V right here is the face of Taurus the bull. Right on the back again is Makali'i. So that's the first star line. So the first one was He Ka, the second was Heivi. Heivi was what? The bones, very good, okay? So, and the bones we said represented what? Our ancestors. It is a genealogical star line. And it starts here in the north at Hokupa'a. So right behind your head. And you'll see that the sun is coming up. But Cam's going to work his magic. And he's going to set it back down again. There we go. So, Hoku meaning star, Pa'a meaning fixed. What star do you think that is? The North Star. Yeah, doesn't move. Now we come up, we have Nahiku, which is, you guys might recognize? The Big Dipper. Yeah. Coming off that panhandle, we have Hokule'a. Anybody know what's significant about Hokule'a? It's right over Hawaii. It is a zenith star for our latitude. Very good. Okay. So you'll see that when we change latitude, which we'll do in a little bit, this will no longer be right over our heads. Okay? Now we come all the way down this arc, this backbone of the sky. All the way here to Hanaya Kamalama. You guys recognize that one? That's right, the Southern Cross. Okay, and this is one of my favorite stars. Super important when we're traveling back to Hawaii as a latitude. It helps us to tell latitude. That's for another time. So you guys can come back next time and get lessons on how to tell latitude. But from here, the Southern Cross, all the way to the North Star, it creates this backbone. This backbone of stars that holds the sky up, just as our ancestors hold us up. We stand on their shoulders. Now, that's the second one. So we have He Ka, Heivi, then He Makau. Do you guys see the Makau? Yep, right here. Some of you may recognize it as something else. Scorpius. To us, we know it as Kamakau Nui on Maui, the great fish hook of Maui. And he used this fish hook to fish at the islands, or in other tales, to pull the islands closer together. Now we have Pimoi, which is this fish, that ulua, that Maui, you'll see in some of the tales, Maui was trying to fish up this ulua. Somebody in the canoe looked back, the ulua froze up and turned into the islands. So, we're all living on a fish. Now, over here, we have our summer triangle, which represents this spool of kaula, or spool of rope, that's wound around here. And if you travel back, the spool of kaula comes down, latches on over here. It actually comes up here comes across, latches onto the top of that fish hook, and that's that fish hook that's trying to catch pimoy. Yeah. Now that is Macau, and this is what we see during the summertime. Our last and final star night. You guys remember which one it was? Kalupe, lupe being the kite. Yeah, so these are kind of the handles that we would hold as we fly that kite right here in the center. And the center, you guys might know it as a square of Pegasus. But we know that it is we know it as the 4 stars that frame that kite are named after the 4 major chiefs of the 4 major islands. So let's quiz you guys real quick. Kiawe? Big Island, Hawaii. Very good. Kakuliheva? Oahu. Mano Kalanipo? Kauai. And Pi'ilani. All right. Okay. So we've got those 4 up there. Now we come down over here. We have Iwa Keli'i. This bird, this Eva bird, chiefly Eva bird, and you guys might know it as Cassiopeia. But we know it as this beautiful bird that flies, circles each night around Hokupa'a. That's its path. Kamo'i is the great king or the great chief of the northern skies. And then all these other names down here that you see, some of you might even recognize them. They might be your ohana. These are people or descendants of some of these people up here, some of these chiefs. Yeah. With that being said, that is the night sky. This is the exact night sky that Kalepa showed me, that I fell in love with, and that's where everything started. So, but at that time actually, there were no star nights. So can you turn off the star nights, please? So this is what I learned for 7 years. I memorized all of the stars that I needed to. All these bright stars, these star lines, all of these distinct points of light, what kind of angle they create, how I can use 2 or 3 stars to figure out where north and south is. Because, can anybody tell me how many points you need to know on top of a compass in order to figure out all the rest of the directions? 3, a little bit lower than that. 2, a little bit lower than that. You only need to know 1. The reason why is, remember how we did it before? East. If you know where east is, then you know where what? Is. West. If you know where west is, then you know where what is? North and south. Yeah? Very easy. So all you need is 1 point. But the more clues you have, that will help to get you to recognize at least 1 point on the compass, the better off you are. Okay? Now, Cam, if we can go ahead and turn off the stars. Before I left Hawaii, I knew my stars. Like, that's my bread and butter. And I was super confident because I'm like, yeah, I got these stars. I know them like the back of my hand. I'm good. Then I got into a plane, traveled for about 14 hours. I didn't hop from here to Honolulu to New Zealand, traveled back in time to Rarotonga, then off to Aitutaki. And when I stepped off the plane, this is what the sky looked like. Totally. You saw the Southern Cross down here before? Look at where it's at now. I was freaking out. I mean, the sky was totally different. A lot of the stars in the north that I knew that I had were gone. They're now below the horizon. And we call it the barf effect, okay? Because you don't have that whole experience of traveling from Hawaii, then gradually moving your way through down to the South Pacific and so forth. So you don't watch the stars shift. I just got off the plane and boom, the sky looked like this. And this is actually really polite because when I got down there, in my mind I was like, okay, the stars will shift. You got that. That's obvious. But it did not only just shift. What happens was, there's an illusion that happens when you're down in the south. the stars that are like on this side in the south, they all like look squashed together. Then the ones in the north are all super, super far apart. And so what happens now, you remember those lines and those patterns? So instead of arcs, like Hokulea, Hikinalea coming down like this, they're sitting right on top of each other, but like super far. So what happens then is that they just look like a bunch of random dots. There's no pattern anymore. So for the first 2 days on the canoe, I was completely lost. I could not figure out where I was, what star was what. I was seasick, I was tired, I was hungry, I was sick and tired. But it's one of those things that Papa Mao, the man who is credited for helping to bring Polynesian wayfinding back, very simple statement: make strong. That's what you do. You make strong. Yeah. And so I knew that the only way that I'd be able to get through this whole entire experience and this voyage was to make strong. So there I was, throwing everything off of the canoe. Everything came up, everything went over, and then just get back to work. The best thing to do is keep working. That's what I learned. So, Cam, you can go ahead and go to the slide. Yeah, perfect. So now with the sky being that way, it wasn't just that. The stars that I thought I was going to have, I did not have for the most part. In fact, it was rainy and stormy, and it was miserable. I mean, miserable sometimes. And then when it wasn't stormy, it was hot, super hot, and there's nowhere to hide on Hokulea. You're exposed to all the elements, and by being so, you have a lot of respect for it. You realize how small you are on the canoe, and how important you are to your crew and the people that are with you. And so, our travel, the lake that I did to get me back home was from Aitutaki to Samoa, was about 1,000 miles in total that we had to voyage. If I may, I'm going to step back. Oh yeah, we can go ahead. And get back to my grandfather really quick. So he called. Of course, I was waiting for that phone call to come in at some point. But 2.5 years ago, he called and said, Leslie, it's time. It's time for you to come home. And so I told him, I said, oh, okay, you know, I'm nervous. It's like the biggest test in your life, having to come home and share what you've learned for the almost 8 years that I've been gone. But he told me, but I understand that you have learned how to navigate from a master. And with that, your requirement is now to come home the way your ancestors did. You must come home by way of the sea and the stars. And so I was like, do you mean I have to come home on a ba'a? Is that what you're saying? He said, yes, you must come home on a ba'a. And you must bring your teacher with you to be honored formally in our village. And so I tried to explain to him, like, that's really hard. It's a hard thing to ask. But he, like a true chief, no, go get it done. Don't bother me with the details. Okay. So I tried. For 2 years, Kalepa and I tried. And no success. And it's kind of one of those things when you force something, it doesn't happen. Yes. So I called him up and I said, I think it was ending of last year, December. And I told him, Papa, you know, I'm so sorry. We've tried for 2 years and we just can't make it happen. There's just too much, and for whatever reason, it's not working. So I'll go and I'll just fly home because you're not getting any younger. So let's just get this over with. And he said, he replied, Leslie, you do not come home that way. You must come home the way I asked you to. You must return the way your ancestors did. And so I tried to plead again, but he said, have faith and have trust. When the time is right, everything will fall into place. And you will know that that's time has come. And so I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna have faith, and okay, I'm gonna let it be. So I never ever tried again after that to even bring it up to Kalepa. I just figured if Papa's right, then it's gonna happen. And most of you may know that Hokulea, to launch off for the worldwide voyage, she left from Hilo. She left on May 30th, which was Friday. Wednesday, Nainoa was sitting right there in that seat with his ohana. And he came in, it was actually my birthday, May 28th. And I had begged my husband, I was like, I don't want any presents. Can I just be in the dome, help the crew, get acquainted with the stars that they're going to use. Only thing it's going to take from 8 o'clock all the way to like 12, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. Can you just let me have my voyaging fix? Because I have 3 children. I have 3 children, 4 years old, 3 years old, and at that time my baby was 3 months. And so I was like, please, can I just, do this one thing? And he said, go, get your voyaging fix, have a happy birthday, and then don't complain when you come home because no more cake. so I went, and when we were finished inside of here, Nainoa and I walked down into the hall, and I went to go take him back to his car. And in the middle of that hallway, he stops, and he looks at me and says, I think you should come. And I was like, ooh, come where? He's like, I think you should come on the voyage. And so I told him, I'd love to, but I just gave birth 6 weeks ago, and I am not going anywhere because my baby is brand new, and I just cannot. And he said, I know what you're saying, and I know what it's like to have young kids on the voyage, but there is just this feeling like you have to come. You have to. And so I said, oh, thank you again, but no thank you. And he said, okay, maybe you might want to consider this time away from your family that you're worried about. You might want to consider this week-long voyage. I don't know if you've ever heard of a place called Samoa. I was like, what did you just say? A week to Samoa? And he said, yeah, he explained, he's like, well, that's the only place that I know there's going to be a short little lake. It's going to go from American Samoa over to Apia, Samoa, which Apia is the city, is the capital of Upolu, where my village is on. And then he said it's going to take a little short around to some other islands and come back in a week total. And so talk about jump out of your own skin. That was the moment that I knew my grandfather was talking about. I didn't ask for it. I didn't try and seek it out. But it happened anyway. And it was if in that hallway, my ancestors were there trying to make it happen. And it came from Nainoa himself. And so I told him quickly, yes, but I gotta go check with my husband first. So I went and I talked to my husband, and he's like, okay, a week, yeah, okay, I can deal with that. And I went back to the sail plan, and I realized that American Samoa to Apia Samoa is about a 70-mile distance. And not necessarily you can see the island for a little bit, but Apia is so bright, you can see its lights, guaranteed. So, with me going from American Samoa to Samoa, it was almost like it's not navigating because the island is right there. It's like island hopping. And I realized that's not an honest voyage. I don't think that's what my grandfather had in mind. When he wanted me to navigate home, he wanted it to be arduous. He wanted it to be something that I earned, something that took courage, that took perseverance. He wanted it to be hard. I wanted that too, actually. I didn't want the easy way out. So I had to go back to my husband and say, Jared, instead of a week, how would you feel about a month and a half? Oh, he just about floored himself. Oh, what? So, anyway, needless to say, we looked at everything. There's so much sacrifice that had to be made on all kinds of levels. To leave 3 babies, to leave a full-time job, to leave full-time school, everything for a month and a half. And I told my husband, you say no, I don't go. It's that simple. And he said, Cess, this is a once in a lifetime chance for your grandfather to see you come home this way. Go and do this for your grandfather. And so with that, I went. If you can see me, I was in a sail bag. I was so cold. We just came through an 8-hour squall. A squall is like a big, huge rain cloud. And I almost went into hypothermic shock because I couldn't get my body to control shivering. I was freezing. And so in a kind of a desperate attempt to get my body heat trapped, Uncle J.K., John Cruz, he's one of the original from the 1976 voyage. He grabbed a sail bag from the hull and threw me into it and said, keep warm because you need to navigate. Speaking of squalls, I'm going to jump forward. Like I said, it was a rough sail. I expected at least like a little bit of smooth sailing here and there, nothing too crazy. I did not get my wish. It was the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to be. But I'll take you to the last final 8 hours of my voyage. What I remember was in the morning, I was supposed to go to sleep for a little bit, but because I knew I was within range of the island, I decided to stay up that morning before the sun rose. And so, as I did so, the master navigator who was on board, Tua Pittman, he's another pole navigator, but from the Cook Islands. So he came up and he said, Ceci, look for strange clouds off the horizon. Look for strange clouds. And so that's what I did. I just kept my eyes peeled. And sure enough, like in between this, right over here, this off the bow of the canoe, there are 2 white clouds, and then a gray cloud with a sharp cutoff. And it looked, well, that's not natural for a cloud to do that. So for me, I attributed it to a pulley or to a cliff of some sort. So I quickly ran over to Uncle Tua and I said, Uncle, is that my island? And he said, welcome home. So there I was all excited. I mean, it's 9 days of hard sail, but we're right there. I can see the island, well, sort of. It looks like a cloud. But, so he told me immediately after that, he said, Ceci, hold it there. Hold it there, do not lose it. Because as soon as that sun comes up above the horizon, and it peaks up a little bit more, the light will drown out the island and you'll lose it. So you have to hold it there, hold it in your mind. And so intent on doing that, I didn't take my eyes off of it. But by doing that, I failed to do 2 very important things. One was get my bearings off the waves. And in order to do that, you have to use the sun. Yeah. So when the sunrise and sunset are the most important times of the day, because it gives you a definite bearing by which you can sight the waves, what direction they're coming in, and then you can also figure out, like how we did, we know where east is, you can figure out where all the rest of the directions are. I didn't do that, so I didn't have any sight off the waves. The second thing I failed to do was notice that there was this huge squall coming behind us. And before I knew it, it was right on top of us. Covered out everything actually. And we were traveling side by side with Hiki and Aliyah, our sister canoe. But she has GPS on her. And the last thing I saw was Hiki and Aliyah go this way, and we clock around and go this way. I mean, and we were blazing fast. That squall had heavy rains and fierce winds. and we were just flying it in the wrong direction. And I was like, oh my goodness, what just happened? I just had the island right there. Everything was all happy and good, and we were all crying and, you know, and super joyous. And then all of a sudden, there I am. And I can tell you right now, it was as if my stomach was in my throat, because in a squall, the sun gets covered out. You also, the winds, you can use the winds to tell you direction, but in a squall, the winds will switch around the clock. Yeah, and so the winds become unreliable. You cannot use them anymore. So without the sun, without the wind, you're only left with waves. And like I said, I didn't get a sight off the waves, so now I have no idea where I'm at. And I turned to Uncle Tua with like almost panic in my voice, and I said, Uncle, I don't know where we're at. I am lost. And he so calmly said, Ceci, throw everything, every technique, everything that you know, everything that you've been taught, throw it off the canoe. It cannot help you anymore. You have to now feel your way home. That is the only way you're going to make it there. That is the only way you can take us home. And so I asked to go be excused so that way I could pull in, said a prayer, and said, okay, how cool. You're the, first of all, you created this path, so you know it because you made it. To my kupuna, please help guide me home, because you traveled it. So between the two people, between you two, I don't know anything. I don't even know where I'm at. Please help me figure out how to feel my way home now. And so we traveled through that large squall for about almost 2.5, 3 hours. I told the crew, just hold as close as you can to the wind. And I felt really bad for our steersman, because that's hard. It's a hard thing to do. But they did it nonetheless, because I was afraid if we got too downwind, we would never be able to come back up if we had to. Also, as some background information, to add to the stress, we were already rationing our water. We were meant to take 7 days. We're already on our 9th day. We had 9 bottles of water left. We used 2 each day. Now, if I was able to get the right direction, get the canoe back on course, it would be about a 8 to 10 hour sail. If I had it wrong, that's 2 more days, if we're lucky. So the stress is really high, because the stakes are high. So we finally, that squall passes over us after about 3 hours. And I look out, and there's 1 squall, 2 squall, and then a 3rd one behind me. And in between each squall are beautiful blue skies with no island there. So you know what that means. It's behind one of those lucky doors. And I thought, oh, just my luck, you gotta be kidding me. And because it's still so cloudy, there was still no sun. So I turned to Tua and I said, my island is behind one of these 3, and I have no idea which one it is. And he said, remember, you have to feel your way home. You're the only person from that place on this canoe right now. You're the only person that can take us there. So take us home. When you come back, because I told him, okay, I'm going to go pull it one more time, and then I'll come back. He said, when you come back, know that you must give us a direction. You have to set a course. Know that we will not question you. We're just going to go. So I said, okay. Now logic told me, we went the opposite way from where we were supposed to. Hikialio went this way, we're going the other way. So it would make sense that we went opposite, so the island should be behind us. However, while my head told me this squall was the right one, I thought, oh, my gut feeling told me home was right, straight ahead, in this squall. it was such a strong feeling, it's hard to explain. It's one of those things that you cannot question, you don't doubt. And like my grandfather said from the very beginning, have faith and trust. So I said, okay, got back on the live seat. I said, oh, we're going there. I feel that hope is there. And without a word, off we went into that swamp for another good 2 to 3 hours. We were in there. And well, it took us 2 hours to get to this one and another 3 hours to get through it. And talk about, like, you know what's at stake. So, like I said, it's super stressful. And I was squeezing that whole time because I knew what it meant if I got it wrong. I also knew what it meant if I got it right. So, I told the crew, okay, you know what? Those of you who are not on the sweep, get up on deck, scour the horizon. The first indicator, there's going to be 2 indicators that we're in the right squall. The first one is going to be Hikianalia. We're going to find her mast light at the top of the mast. The second indicator is if we hit land, and that's probably not going to happen. So find Hikianalia. So everybody went out, and after 3 hours of just waiting and praying, all I hear is, she's up ahead, she's up ahead. And through all of that rain, that pelting rain, and that wind, you see this tiny little mast light. That, for me, was an indicator that we were almost home. It didn't, at that point, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going in the right direction. That just means that we're in the same squall as Hikianalia. That's all it means. That's all it means. But for me, that's enough, because that's a friend. Yeah. When you come through those kind of stormy weather, those challenges and those trials, all you want to see is a friend, a familiar face. Hikianalia was that for me. And so finally, we were able to sail together for another 2 hours. And then, we puka through, we come through that last part of the squall, and out in front of us is this beautiful green island, which is Ta'u, the easternmost island in the Malua Islands. And that was when, I thought I knew what joy was. Oh, man, joy and relief. But to see that island and to know that I just navigated, call it navigate by na'au. You navigate by your na'au, you navigate by your feeling. There's no way to teach that. It's hard to teach. You can teach all of the techniques you want with your hand, how to figure out what's on the horizon and what house is what and what star to line up. But at the end of the day, sometimes even that is not enough. The lesson that I learned was that voyaging, which is just a metaphor for life, is a combination of a whole bunch of different things. It is the cognitive part, our brains. It is the emotional part, how we feel. It is the physical part. It is also the spiritual part. And in voyaging, each one holds weight. You can rely upon every single one of those things. And at the end of the day, you're not all is going to get you there with faith and trust. That's what I learned. So, now, I get to Malua. Everybody's super happy, we're crying. And because it was such a momentous moment for me, I was allowed to use the sat phone to call my mother. And so, the crew is all gathered around, and I give my mom a call, and I'm telling her, oh, Mom, well, of course I leave out, the dangerous parts, because I don't want her to freak out. But I tell her, I made it. Please, Mom, can you go and call Papa and tell him that I'm almost home? Tell him that I'm knocking on his door, and I'm right there. And all I hear, is nothing on the other side. And so I ask, Mom, are you okay? Is everything all right? And then I hear her sobbing. And so I said, what's going on? She says, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to tell you this. but your grandfather won't be there when you come to Samoa. And I said, what do you mean? He said he suffered 2 heart attacks while he was in California for a family reunion and a wedding. He was supposed to be in Samoa already by the time I got there. But she said, he's in the hospital, he's in a critical condition, and he is not going anywhere. And I'm sorry, baby, but he will not be there for you when you come home. And I just, well, of course, I turned into a hot mess, but I thought, how can this be? Everything was for him. My whole purpose for going, for leaving, was for him, was to fulfill my promise that I made to him. How can it be in the end that he's not even there? And so for a moment I thought, you know what, when I get to American Samoa, I'll hop off, tell the crew goodbye, cut it short, I'm going to go fly over to California. And I'm going to go be with him in the hospital. No sooner did I think that, the thought came, you cannot do that. He wanted you to come home. You finish what you started. And so I had to swallow that pain, that heartbreak, that, I guess, not understanding of why such a turn of events would occur. But I believe that everything happens for a reason. And there was a reason for this too. So I decided to soldier on, make it home. Whether he's there, I figured, okay, maybe there's 2 weeks left. Maybe he might be able to surprise me. And as a child, you hold those kind of hopes. You have to. You have to. So I would make it all the way through to Samoa, and I would, you saw some of the pictures, I would come back to my village after 10 years of being away. I finally make it back home. And I thought that maybe he would be there, but he wasn't. Nonetheless, went through, I had my ceremony, and I was able to do what my grandfather wanted, was to honor my teacher, Kalepa, in a very formal way. My grandfather, and the phone call that last phone call that he gave me before I kind of just left it up to whatever and whatever would happen. He said, he said, Desi, my prayer and my hope is that when your people see you come home in this way, that they will be inspired to leave the shores again. That is my prayer. And I did not know. I mean, I thought that it was just about a promise, but I didn't know that by me, just that act alone of sailing back to Samoa, navigating my way home on Hokule'a, that I would end up being the first person, the first Samoan to reopen that line again and navigate back home to the place where navigation started. That became a historic event for Samoa. Let alone it was done by a woman, by a young woman, by a taupo, nonetheless, even more so. And it wouldn't become apparent until much later in the trip, actually before the final days of the trip, that I would sit down with Lainoa Thompson, as well as the king, the head of state of Samoa, and the head of the Polynesian Voicing Society, and be tasked to teach the birthplace of navigation how to navigate again. I don't think that if don't think that if I, well, like I said, everything happens for a reason. If my grandfather had been there, I would have thought my duty was done. I would have thought that that was it. I finished. I'm going to go home. It took him not being there for me to realize that it was always so much bigger than him and I. Always. I just couldn't see that. And I guess I wasn't until that moment. And so now, Kalabo, my teacher, he's always the what's next guy. I mean, you can be in this moment, but he'll always be thinking about what's next. So, and he kind of instilled that in me as well. And so while I'm there, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, okay, well what is next? And it was really funny because Uncle Nainoa said, he's like, you know, we have this vision. Maybe it's the school of navigation or this, we don't even know. We don't even know how to get it done. What we want to see is the navigation come back to this place. It's about the seeds that we plant here. He's like, I can't teach that. Well, nobody, I mean, we're all too busy. It'll have to be you and those that you bring together. However, what Mom taught us is that we're all too old already. Give me your babies. So he said, if you're gonna teach navigation, you've got to figure out a way to teach every single topic, every single subject that they're gonna learn in school. You have to learn how to teach it through through voyaging and through the wa'a. That's how you're gonna be successful. We need more navigators, especially in the South Pacific. We don't know how you're gonna figure it out, but you gotta figure it out somehow. So, very calmly I said, that has been my work for the past 3 years, and even on. It is what I do. It is my mission. It is my passion. So, just know that I got it. I got it. They were so excited. You know what? And then I came home, and I'm so excited. I cannot. It's hard to fathom what just happened. This is 5 weeks ago. This is brand new stuff. And I'm still trying to make sense of it all. But what I do know, the lessons that I've learned, is that my grandfather said, I want you to come back so that way you inspire people to leave their shores again. At first I thought, why would he want them to leave? What's the point in leaving? It wasn't until after everything that I realized it was never about just leaving. You bring back the canoe, you bring back the values that come with it. You bring back the lessons. In order to be on the wa'a, you have to be strong. You have to be brave and courageous. You've got to be able to persevere through anything, the good and the bad. You have to know how to live within your means sustainably. You have to know how to take care of your crewmates. They're the only crew you've got. You have to know how to love them. And you have to know how, when you disagree, how to communicate with them as well. You learn all of these lessons. That happens on the wa'a. My grandfather understood that. I didn't. Not at that point. Not until now. The thing that I learned is that I am those things. My ancestors were those things. They were strong. They were brave. They were smart. They knew how to live together. They knew how to beef. But they knew how to love. Ho'oponopono back again. All of these different things, I realized, make me who I am. And one of the greatest gifts, I think Mama Hoku, we endearingly call Hokule'a, the greatest gift she's ever given me is that she allowed me to see my genuine self. It's not always pretty, but as soon as you can figure out who your genuine self is, then you can make the best version of you possible. And like I said earlier, the voyage is just a metaphor for life. Each of us are on our own voyage. Each of us are going to go through squalls, physical and spiritual. Each of us are going to have to come into that moment where your brain no longer can guide you anymore. It's here. It's your all. It's your heart. Each of us will have to learn how to have faith and trust at some point. But each of us have all the tools that we need to make it home, to make successful landfall. With that being said, I want to thank you all for coming. Oh, and I wish you the best of luck on your own voyages as well. And just as a final thought, my teacher, Celeste Hao, he sent me a really quick email before tonight because he knew he wasn't going to be able to be here, but he said some words of encouragement, and he said, and I want to share it with you because this will be my final thought. Be in this moment with an eye on the future. Be in this moment. Enjoy this moment. Soak it up. Live in it. Revel in it. But know that this moment isn't it. That there's so much more to come. This moment gives perspective to what's out there. Look to it. Move towards it. With that, mahalo nui.
We are honored and humbled to have this very special young woman as a member of our staff here at the Imiloa Astronomy Center. She is part of our education team. She is an outreach coordinator. So she shares her ike, her knowledge, her passion, and her strength with the children of this island and the children of Hawaii and the next generation. So, thank you so much. Please help me to give her one more round of applause. And thank you all for joining us this evening. Before you folks leave, I have a very special gift that I want to give you all. Before you folks leave, okay? So, Cam, if you could go ahead and get it started. I almost forgot. In the Samoan culture, the apex, the final finale of anything that's ever done is always graced by a taulunga. The taulunga is this dance that as a taupo, that is one of my responsibilities that I do that. So, before you go, I would like to do a taulunga. Is that alright?
Sawi
Mahalo again for joining us this evening. Aloha.